All right, guys, welcome back. Today is day 5 of Seven Figure Seller Summit, and the whole week has just zoomed by. Today is all about exits and structuring your business to sell it. Today, I have two amazing special guests with us. First, we have Kevin Flaherty from Thoracio. How's it going, Kevin?
It's going great, Gary. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. And we also have CJ Rosenbaum from Amazon Sellers Lawyer. Good to see you, CJ. How's
Hey,
it going?
great to see you, Gary. Great to see you, Kevin.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So because we are live, if you can see and hear us, could you please type your name, and also could you also share your number one takeaway from this week so far? We've already gone through 4 days of the summit, and we've talked about the mindset, the fundamentals, ways these 8-figure and 7-figure sellers are navigating through this logistics storm that we're in with all the high shipping rates, dealing with Amazon inventory controls. Day 2 is all about marketing, branding, and PPC. And day 3 is all about scaling your business. Day 4 yesterday was about profitability, how to keep more money in your pocket at the end of the day. And day 5 is we've come full circle, right? So for a lot of companies, the end game, you really want to structure your business to sell it. It could be life changing. So definitely, this is one of the big topics I know a lot of you guys have. So let's before we get started, let's take a quick look at the calendar. And I'd love to get a little bit more insight from you guys about what you spoke about, and also to get the conversation started. All right, so I'm just gonna share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen okay? Thumbs up. Yeah. All right, so today, first off, was Michael Smith from Thoracio, brand strategies to apply today for an acquirable company tomorrow. So he really shared about brand strategies, what Thoracio is doing. So that was super valuable. Kevin, I know that obviously you didn't present, but maybe if you can offer like a quick tip or something, drop a value bomb for our audience as we get started talking about some of these strategies to apply today for an acquirable company tomorrow. What do you say, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I wasn't presenting for Michael today, and don't have a great glimpse into what he was talking about. But I can tell you, sort of, when we're looking for acquisitions, at least on the front end side, what we're really looking for is more of a brand that has a clear vision for itself that we're able to build upon. So, maybe launching a lower number of ASINs and SKUs, but all related and have that sort of solid branding surrounding it in a clear message or clear story versus the other tactic, which there's certainly merit to, which would be sort of launching, a high number of ASINs or SKUs that are sort of haphazard, right? For lack of a better term, it might be everything from a spatula to a cat repellent mat, kind of all over the place. So what really becomes attractive for us is, acquiring real quote unquote brands that we can build off of going forward.
Excellent, excellent. And then just a quick introduction on Kevin. Kevin is Thracio's manager of acquisitions. He's responsible for sourcing, evaluating, and negotiating acquisition deals. And then prior to joining Thracio, Kevin was in the private equity and public policy world, working as an analyst for Advantage Capital. And then in his spare time, he's an avid fan of Big East College basketball, and also he's a big baseball fan as well. He's
Yep.
where are you actually? Where are you right now? If you're open to sharing.
Yeah, I'm currently in Baltimore, heading to an Orioles game later, and then Orioles game tomorrow, and then last weekend was in Dallas to go see the Texas Rangers. So my goal is to hit all 30 baseball stadiums.
Awesome, awesome. When you do get to Dodger Stadium in LA, please take a selfie and share it with me, man.
I
I'll
will.
be living vicariously through you. Excellent, Kevin. All right. So as we go through a review of today, we also had Josh Dietrich, the story of Josh's 8-figure exit. That was an amazing story. He actually exited 2 of his e-com brands, an Amazon business and a Shopify business. So definitely catch that as it's still available in the 24-hour period. We also had Ben Leonard, why and how to make your ecom business sellable and valuable. And Ben is actually he sold his business to Thoracio. Beast Gear. Ben is based in the UK, and he gave a really good talk about that. Kevin, do you know Ben at all? I know Thoracio is a huge company, but Ben exited to Thoracio. Yeah.
Ben was actually an earlier acquisition that we made prior to my joining in March 2020. But I have interacted with Ben in the past. He's a great guy and a great advocate for Thoracio.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And then CJ, can you tell us more about what you shared today? And maybe if you can give us a quick tip about defense winning championships as you're exiting your business.
Well, you see, we see a lot of sellers that when they're planning to exit or in the process, they kind of take their foot off the gas pedal and make themselves a bit more vulnerable to some renegotiations or if the deal doesn't close. So what Kevin was talking about in terms of branding and limited ASINs, if you're doing that, you really want to make sure that you're still pumping in the same energy, the same money, the same resources, so that the business doesn't start to go down during the due diligence process or if the deal doesn't close. So you want to make sure that as you're in the process of selling, you're not doing anything that denigrates the value. And we're big proponents of continuing to put your foot on the gas pedal. So as it gets closer and closer to growing, it's more and more attractive, to Kevin's team. So that's a big mistake that we see, that sellers will often stop doing what they would normally be doing because now they're in the process of selling or bailing out. So you never want to take your foot off the gas pedal.
Definitely. I feel like that's great advice. And we see a lot of the sellers, they sold while the business was still on an upward growth trajectory. And then, Kevin, what do you think about that? Like, when is the right time to sell for a business?
Yeah. So, I mean, every situation is different. I think for the seller, it makes the most sense as it's on that upward growth trajectory, right? There's a strong story behind it, likely would be able to command a higher multiple, et cetera. And, through the earnout component, there is solid opportunity to continue to reap benefits going forward if the business is on sort of that upward trajectory. But certainly to CJ's point, literally the first thing that we communicate to sellers post term sheet signing is, an entire document about maintaining the operations, as they were pre-term sheet. So please don't take the foot off the gas. Please continue to maintain the business as you were, through the entirety of close, so that, the business maintains its solid health, post acquisition, but also, that strength remains so that renegotiations are, I would say, the least favorite part of the job, and everyone hates doing it. And so, as much as we can avoid that is the goal. And so maintaining is huge. So I just like to echo CJ's point.
Hey, I got to tell you something. If I jump in, Kevin, if I jump in, Gary, yes. Kevin using the words a strong story to your brand. A lot of sellers, a lot of private label sellers, smaller brands, they don't really believe in how valuable the story of their brand is, the story of their growth, the sort of emotional value that consumers get. So we really push hard, making sure that you share the story of your business. What is the story of your brand? And if the story is a sort of different product to product, maybe you create a different brand with a different story for that line of goods. So I really love, Kevin, that you mentioned the value and the importance, of the story of the brand.
For sure. We're seeing that a lot of the sellers that have exited, and that was one of the big differentiators. Going back to Ben Leonard, he really, his brand really resonated with like male, like a macho male demographic, right? With Beast Gear, and he built an audience out of that. He built a list off of Amazon, and that was really his brand, and he was interacting with them. And I think that's one thing that definitely separates successful sellers that can exit, right, in terms of the branding. So I think that's a great point, guys. Kevin and CJ, thanks for raising that up. So All right. So if you guys can see and hear us okay, please drop a comment in the chat where you're watching from and also your number one takeaway. And also, I always feel like, I mean, it's Friday night. I know in the States, a lot of people got stuff going on. Maybe people are running late. But at the same time, I feel like sharing is caring, because this is a very important topic for people that want to exit. So if you know someone that's running an Amazon business and they might get value from this, go ahead and share this link with them. I think they'll get a lot of value jumping in the conversation as well. All right. Meanwhile, I would like to take a moment to thank Thoracio for being our lead sponsor, and we really appreciate your support. And I just wanted to also give Kevin a moment to tell us a little bit more about Thoracio. I think most people have heard of Thoracio as being like the biggest acquirer, but can you give us some more insight? Why should sellers consider Thoracio, and give us some more insight on that, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Gary. I think for a lot of different Amazon sellers, they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into building up these brands over the past, 2, 3, 4, sometimes up to 7, 8, 10 years, right? For the really experienced and longer term sellers. And a lot of times what we hear is, this is our baby. We want to make sure that the brand continues onward and, moving to good hands. For us, we sort of think of ourselves as the nanny to that baby, right? Where we can take over. We often collaborate with sellers to understand sort of the hiccups that they might have seen in the past. And we have the institutional infrastructure to be able to address them in a quick and manageable way and scale the business, very rapidly post-acquisition. I think Gary alluded to, we were the first and largest aggregator within the space and have really made this market. To date, we've grown from a core group of 5 people in about 3 years, starting in September of 2018 to today, of about 1,000 full-time US-based employees and about 400 employees overseas. We've been able to raise over $1.7 billion of growth capital and have the most experience in the marketplace, acquiring just about 150 brands to date. And that's across categories. And so, if sellers are looking for, experienced operators who are able to take the business to the next level and have the resources to do so, we always love to be able to chat with entrepreneurs, whether it's for a sale in the immediate term, whether it's, for a year down the line, or really if it's just for informational purposes, right? They just want to get a better understanding of what their options could be. Always happy to chat.
Excellent. And Thoracio has provided a opportunity for you guys to get a free valuation of your business, and you can connect with them at the link that we've dropped in the chat. I've talked to a lot of sellers, and they say that preparation is key, right? You really want to know before you exit where you are, right? Maybe something will surprise you, right? Maybe you're not doing something you should be, so it does make sense to connect. And I understand it's not going to be like a hard sell, right? Kevin,
No,
yeah.
So, this is,
yeah,
more informational and really trying to meet you where you are. To the extent that you're particularly interested in getting a deal done, we can get you there. If you just want to say, hey, look, this is something that we're interested in 12 months down the line, and we just want to get sort of a ballpark understanding of where we are, so we can have a better understanding where we want to head and how we can get there. Happy to have those conversations. So certainly not a hard sell.
Excellent. All right. So feel free to connect, guys. So we thank you for that. So let's go back to the calendar. I wanted to share the rest of the sessions for today. And for you guys that are with us, now is a valuable time to ask your questions to Kevin, to CJ about what company, like Thoracio is looking for in companies. Maybe like you're at a certain point, maybe you have a question about valuation, or even you're going through an exit, right? Maybe there's some of the things that you're not sure about. I think this is a golden opportunity, guys. So as we round out today, we also had Eric Dahl. He's kind of like a digital nomad. He built up 3 7-figure businesses, and he exited another one of his businesses for 6 figures. So that was a very inspiring inspiring session that we had in the afternoon. And last but not least, we also had Yael Kabili talking about post-exit preparation, right? Do's and don'ts after selling. So everyone talks about before selling, what you do during the sale, but after selling, there's issues with non-competes. How do you get back into Amazon and what not to do? I think that was a very interesting session. And then she also debuted a report that they did about which categories are the hottest right now in terms of Amazon businesses. So definitely check out that session, guys. All right. So let's as we transition into the Q&A, I'm just curious, what are you guys seeing in terms of the state of the marketplace right now for transactions? I mean, we hear it's very high, and companies are getting approached. Amazon businesses are getting approached by aggregators. What are you guys seeing? I'm curious. CJ, why don't you take a shot at this first? What are you seeing from your side?
We're certainly seeing a tremendous growth in the number of sellers who are being approached to sell. And we're starting to see a little bit faster growth on the part of the sellers who are interested in selling. We certainly see that the older the seller is, the kind of more likely they are to explore, selling their brand. They kind of recognize that they might want to get out when the market is so hot, where the super younger digital nomad type, unlike that guy, right? May want to ride it out till they want to, race to be a billionaire sort of thing. And I got to tell you, I advise people all the time, like, listen, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? And if you put that money aside when you are 26, okay, you could literally be set for life, where the rest of your career is really for your competitive enjoyment, right? Where you can sometimes put away enough money, so that your future is secure. But we're definitely seeing a split. Like the super younger people are more inclined to hold on to it and ride it out, and they're going to be worth $1 gazillion. Where the more mature, older business people are like, you know what, now's a good time to put the money away, and then ride the brand up with the earnout, help it grow, and then start over again and build another one to sell.
Excellent. Kevin, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I think, I think it's no secret. It's certainly a hot market at the moment. And I think, activity is on both sides, which has sort of neutralized a lot of things. Like CJ was saying, certainly an uptick of aggregators entering into the space. I think we're around 70 now that have raised capital. But with that, there's sort of a perfect storm of factors that have sort of pushed sellers to be more interested in selling. COVID really driving growth. And, from there now, supply chain issues, shipping increases, realizing that, aggregators like ourselves and others are entering into the marketplace, and smaller sellers realizing that they would have to compete with more professionalized sellers. And then, quite frankly, the sort of the looming uncertainty surrounding Biden's tax implications for next year is also a big factor that we've been seeing. So, as aggregators have, come into the market with, a flood of capital, I would say that the supply has also been met in terms of pipeline and how many sellers are willing to actually sell their business.
We're also seeing now that the Delta variant is really taking hold, the timing is really something that sellers should really consider, right? On the one hand, if the Delta hits similar to the way COVID initially hit and Amazon spikes up again, that could be good that's a good argument to hold on a little while. But on the other hand, the rampant unemployment coupled with the lack of labor, coupled that with inflation, all that leads to a time of maybe you want to have some stability and just some money in the bank. So it really is, there's a lot of different things going on. It's a really strange time in the history of commerce right now. So I'm a big fan that if you're getting a fair amount, it's a good time to sell. And what we see, Thoracio is making some really fair offers. They are quick to close. I agree with Kevin. They have the expertise. And yeah, you will avoid a change in the competitive marketplace by selling now.
you could be taking some chips off the table, right? I mean, there's all of these factors we're not sure about with Delta variant. And I'm curious, Kevin, you touched upon something very critical right now, the perfect storm, where many of our sellers are going through this right now in terms of the logistical challenges, the high shipping rates, the Amazon inventory controls. I'm curious, what advice would Thoracio give to our audience, how to manage and get through this, given all of your expertise and your team's expertise?
So I will preference all this by saying I am by no means a supply chain expert, and I spend little time in that side of the business. But quite frankly, we've been lucky to have supply chain experts, an entire team and infrastructure built out to help us weather the storm. But by no means, have we not been affected. I think everyone selling on Amazon and through e-commerce has. So I don't know if I would be able to offer something of a silver bullet as it pertains to, what to do when shipping costs increase or logistics increase. It's really we've seen a lot of sellers get really hit with it. And it also depends on sort of the product category too, right? Particularly the larger products, the bulkier products are getting hit the worst. And so, I guess plan ahead to the best of your ability and try and stock up on inventory as best you can. But it's a tough world out there.
Yeah, it is. And we're seeing, similar to what you said, right? I mean, if you're not an expert, you should hire someone that is an expert. And I remember Eric Dahl, he runs 3 7-figure businesses. He's not doing the supply chain himself. Like, he hired an agency that specializes in supply chain optimization to really find him the best rates in terms of the forwarders, how to optimize all his 3PL. So I think that's a great tip that Kevin alluded to, right? So definitely, I mean, that's one of the big things. And how about all right, guys, I know that you guys are watching, and you guys should not be shy. So now's your chance. If you want to drop a question in the chat, this is a golden opportunity. I don't want to have to, start telling some bad jokes to entertain you guys. All right, we will have to. We'll definitely, that will not be adding value.
Hey, Gary, can I ask? Yeah. I got a question.
CJ,
what you guys are talking about?
Yeah.
Gary, you mentioned the off Amazon value, and I think we always recommend that businesses diversify all aspects. But I'm really wondering, like, how does Thoracio value the off Amazon? Even though the vast majority of the sales are going to be on Amazon in this environment, what kind of value is Thoracio placing on off Amazon aspects of businesses?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I typically say it's on a case by case basis. I'll say, a frequent saying from different sellers or entrepreneurs is, we're not just an Amazon business. We have, so much potential off of Amazon, et cetera, and we certainly can understand that. But then when we ask, okay, well, how, and, usually that conversation is trying to justify a way above market multiple. I say, okay, well, what is sort of the sales on Amazon? And if it's, 98%, it's 2% being off Shopify. It's very difficult to sort of justify a true direct consumer multiple when 98% of sales are being, generated on Amazon, right? And so for us, it's, what does that diversification look like? Is it, 50% on direct consumer? Is it, 70%, whatever the case may be. And then from there, it's, okay, what is your customer acquisition cost? Is that website profitable? How are you guys, attacking marketing? What's your lifetime value of a customer, retention rates, things along those lines that we would want to get better data on to understand that value and be thoughtful about it. Additionally, we would look at, not just direct consumer websites, but are you guys selling in wholesale or retail? What do those accounts look like? How long are they? So different aspects of that. Typically I say if it's, 2% off Amazon or 5% off Amazon, I think of it less of it being diversification and, for lack of a better term, diversification. So if things go really sideways on Amazon, with Amazon just being Amazon, it gives you an avenue for liquidation.
Makes sense. We're seeing that's one of the factors that could increase the valuation as well from the sellers that we talked with. So we have a question from Kelly Lowe. Does Thoracio have a preference for buying private label businesses, or do they consider businesses that are wholesale based?
Yep. So currently we are strictly buying private label businesses at the moment.
Okay. Makes sense. Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you for the question, Kelly.
Yes.
Go get your brand.
Yes.
Go build your brand.
Now could be the right time, Kelly, to consider that. All right. Excellent. And then I also wanted to ask you guys in terms of, and Kelly says thanks, in terms of documentation, creating SOPs. This is something that a lot of sellers struggle with. But in terms of, like, let's say Thoracio, if a business does have this, how does that impact the valuation of the business?
Yeah. So, I would say it depends on the depth of that sort of a couple of things, the complexity of the business. And is it just a straight Amazon business, 100%, 3 to 5 different ASINs, 100% selling on Amazon US? Or is there something that is fundamentally different, that has a bit more complexity there relating to SOPs? For us, whatever, every ASIN that comes under our Thoracio umbrella, goes through, a 503-point checklist that, makes sure that it's in the best position to hit the ground running post acquisition, right? And so we have our own methods and standards of doing things that are proprietary. So, we always love seller input of how they've been operating thus far. But I wouldn't say that it's absolutely necessary, especially, when selling to us.
Excellent. And CJ, you mentioned about this in your session as well, right? What are you seeing in terms of the importance of having SOPs and documentation for a business as it's selling?
It really matches what Kevin's talking about. The larger businesses, you want to definitely have the processes in place of how you operate the business, because it also takes away the dependence upon the individual business owner. Like the more backup systems of redundancies, the business kind of running itself or running it by its staff, by having mechanisms in place, raises the value, because you can't really sell yourself. You're selling your business. So smaller businesses, I think, benefit from it because it gives them sort of a path forward, and larger businesses benefit because when Thoracio or someone else picks up the business, it's an ongoing entity of itself. It exists on its own. So I tell you, like my business, for example, I do a vast majority of like the business development, and, dealing with like putting out fires and that sort of thing. And we're following what some of the other businesses have done, where you have another layer of people or a secondary person who could handle it. So if something should happen to me, I'm not vital to the business. The law firm goes on, whether I'm around or not. And I think by having these processes in place, you're selling a more secure business that goes on post closing and really post you.
No, that's great advice. I'm just going to summarize some of these takeaways. So you can't really sell yourself, right? You're selling your business. You need SOPs, documentation to sell it so it can go on without you, right? So what if, think about what if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? Can your business continue to operate? It's not going to come to a standstill. So great advice, guys. So we have a question from Kenneth Joyce Latimer. What are the most common issues that come up in the final contract negotiations for the exit? Kevin, would you like to take a shot at this first?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just surrounding this. Honestly, might be a better question for CJ, who is in sort of the weeds of the contracting and all that fun stuff. Because I know a lot of it goes back and forth amongst attorneys, right? And I would say sort of the biggest thing might be language surrounding non-competes. I would say ours is pretty broad, but that ends up being sort of not necessarily an issue, but more of a point of further conversation.
Sure. Okay. CJ?
I'm saying I was right. I was hoping Kevin was going to say the same thing. I put down like earn out and control, right? So if you're closing and you're counting on earning the earn out, right, based upon riding it up, and sometimes really is just frosting on the cake. You want to make sure that you have the ability to hit your earn out, because before you close, right, the seller, the owner of the business, has control over the entire business. How much you're going to go and pay per click, your sourcing, product selection. You have a lot more control, where post closing, now somebody else is sort of going to take the lead. And so you want to make sure that if you have an earnout, one, you may want to slow down the on-ramp to your earnout, because you're going to have to get used to another system, another business. The 503-point check on a listing, may result in changes that you don't necessarily agree with, or limiting what you can do. So you want to make sure that you have some time to acclimate to the new owners, and can really have some ability to control your ability to hit your earnout. That you may not expect to have those problems because you've always had full control. So it's the earnout and the control, which really are the common issues on the way out of the business.
Yep. And to circle back on that, I think I misunderstood Kenneth's question a little bit. So when I was thinking about final contract negotiation, I was thinking about more of the asset purchase agreement versus the term sheet. If we're talking about the term sheet, then I would certainly agree with CJ relating to, it's typically conversations surrounding, the earnout, how it's calculated. That's largely it. How it's calculated, which at Thoracio, we have a very straightforward method of doing so. But how it's calculated and how sellers, to the best of their ability, can maintain control.
Excellent. All right. Great question. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kenneth. And another question that gets asked a lot is, how can you increase valuation, right? So, at the end of the day, everyone wants to know about multiples. We're hearing, nowadays, like, the multiple has increased from just 6 months ago. So what are some ways that businesses can increase valuation? Kevin, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my North Star, I say, is our R cubed philosophy, meaning, does the brand or the business have an excellent review moat for its hero product? And I'm going to assume that the business has, maybe 3 or 4 hero products that make up 70% plus of revenue. Does it have an excellent bestseller ranking? And does it have solid product ratings? So, typically bestseller ranking in the top 10 to top 15 within its subcategory. And then product ratings, typically 4.4 stars and up. That's an absolute down the fairway home run deal for me, especially if it's operating in a large category, with sizable keyword universe, right? So, and it's on a solid growth trajectory. So those are different areas at which I would say, okay, this is something that is on a nice growth trajectory. It's an absolute down the fairway home run deal for us. And, this is something that we would quote unquote want to pay up for, fitting within that sort of methodology. Now, that said, that's just Thracio's take on it, right? There's a buyer for every seller, and I'm sure that different aggregators and buyers have different philosophies and different criteria to hit that might not be that R cubed method, right? And so that's just the way that I think about it when thinking about quote unquote paying up for a deal.
Excellent. And what sort of valuations would that R cubed model command?
That is a great question that I never love answering, Gary. And the reason being is I usually say this. People say, how much is my business is worth? I usually say that, to me, that can be the equivalent of how much my car is worth. Do you have a 2004 Ford Focus like myself, or do you have a 2001, Porsche? Two very different valuations there, right? So I typically say this: on average, we've been seeing in the range of 4 to 6 times trailing 12-month SDE on an all-in basis between upfront guaranteed payments, stability payments, and earnout payments. So on an all-in basis, typically between 4 and 6 times, with outliers on both sides, naturally.
So this is much more than just 6 months ago, because back then I think it was only around a 3x multiple. Is my math correct?
That's probably fair. I would say 3 to 4 times up front about 6 months ago, and then it certainly moved to probably 3.5 to 4.5 up front. So the market has certainly moved as more capital has flown in. But what's offsetted that, I would say, is the supply, the continuing supply of sellers who are willing to sell, which has kind of created a ceiling, is what we've seen.
Okay. In terms of the supply, do you mean that there aren't enough supply of sellers that are willing to sell?
No, I'm saying that we've seen sort of a growth in multiple over the past 6 months.
Right.
But even prior to that, we've seen a big growth and a big jump. I would say in the last 18 months, the multiples have increased dramatically. But we have started to see it slow down just a bit. Reason being, I think, is that more sellers are interested in selling their business, and so we've started to see sort of a ceiling of upfront payments really being capped at that 4.5, 5 times upfront for really, really attractive businesses. We haven't seen much past that, and I'm thinking the large reason is sort of the supply of sellers that are out there that has sort of counteracted the capital that's flooded in.
I see. And Kelly had a question in the chat. Is that 4 to 6 times annual profit?
Correct.
Wait a second. Let's go turn back. I was waiting for you to answer Kelly's question. I'm so happy you said yes. That's 4 to 6 times annual profit. So over the last 6 to 18 months, right? It's gone up from 3.5 to somewhere around 4 to 6. You look back 3-4 years ago, right? 5 years ago, it was 2 to 2.5 times your annual profit, your annual net, right? So listen, Amazon sellers out there, it's doubled. It's doubled over just a short period of time. It feels like a long time, but really, in when you're looking at business, 4 or 5 years is nothing. It's a bump in the road. My daughter got me this tie when she was 6. She's 17 right now. And it just flies by like that. So you listen, sellers. I want to answer your question too, guy. I got some thoughts on it.
Yeah, please.
It's a great time. Run your business through Thracio's calculator. It doesn't require you to sell. It doesn't require you to get out of the game. A lot of times you're closing, you're not out of the game. You're just jumping in with a really well-funded partner who can throw some gasoline on your fire of your brand and blow it up. I'm a huge proponent of the Golden Parachute, that book from like the 90s. Great, 4 to 6 times. That is killer.
It's insane. I mean, we've run this summit since 2018, and then back then, in the beginning, there was very little talk, and now it's like everyone's talking about it, and we've gone from 2x to like 6x in a couple years. I mean, guys.
Gary, I can tell you 18 months ago when I first started, even through June of 2020, we were buying businesses in that 2.5 times range.
Yeah.
That was just
I remember I talked to many sellers. I mean, this is why we do this, right? That's why I'm shocked that it's up to 6x. That's crazy. And I think it would be foolish if you're at that level. It would be foolish not to talk to someone like Kevin at Thoracio to at least find out what it's worth, right? Because who knows?
It's like a big Kevin love fest. It made sense back then. It made sense that traditional brick and mortar sold for 3 to 5 times net because you had stability where Amazon is unstable. But now the whole world has turned around where brick and mortar, was doing literally zero. and may go back to zero, and Amazon sales are everything. I mean, this is a tremendous turn of events.
Yes, it is. I just want to just highlight that, multiple, we're seeing 4 to 6x on 12-month trailing STE. So yeah.
Yeah, Gag, I'm with you, man. Like, holy cow.
All right. So hopefully this is like a light bulb moment for you guys. On the other hand, I always say a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others. What are some of like the most common like negatives that you guys are seeing in terms of businesses that's hurting their valuation? Kevin, do you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah. So I would say, I don't know if it's I would say the biggest thing ends up being trademarking. Oddly enough, maybe not oddly enough, we come across different sellers for whatever reason that, either haven't registered trademarks or what have you. It becomes very difficult to buy a business like that. The inherent value of the business for us lies within the intellectual property and within the quote unquote brand. And so, it's very difficult for us, and I think a lot of different buyers out there within this space, to purchase assets that don't have that true intellectual property protection there. So that's a big hiccup that we see.
Mm-hmm.
That can.
So if they lack that, then what does that mean? Does it mean that you guys are not interested, or does it like knock off the multiple?
I would say for us, 85 to 90% of the time, we wouldn't be interested unless they are brand registered or have some sort of protection on Amazon. But other than that, I would say 85 to 90% of the time, it's very difficult for us to get excited.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. All right. CJ, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, listen, the modern era is all about intellectual property. Okay. So ways to build your business, build your intellectual property. You have one line of products, and they all sort of have some kind of same theme to it. That's one brand with one trademark. Build up your copyright, build up your enhanced content, make videos, great photographs and verbiage. That's your IP. You got another line of products that doesn't really match. It's a different category. Create another line. Have your own intellectual property library that you can build without a lawyer. The mistake we are seeing is that you have sellers that are hanging on too long. When Amazon, I'll give you an example. When Amazon created the IP Accelerator program, where if you use one of the lawyers that Amazon is in bed with, you get brand registry right away at the application for the mark, not at the approval, but the application. You're now churning along, selling, you got brand registry. It looks and feels like a brand until 9 months later, USPTO says, no way. Right. And now you don't have the mark with the USPTO, but you have brand registry. Right. So now it's like, as you're getting rejected, you sort of denigrated the value, because before the government turned you down, you were worth, X. But now that the USPTO said no way and you lost your office action, you don't really have that mark, even though you still have brand registry. So I'd say one of the mistakes that listen, and I've been practicing law now, like I'm pushing like 30 years now. Like I can't believe the time flew by, right? But hanging on too long, right, is a big mistake over time. Okay, there was the real estate bubble. There were the tulips in the Middle Ages. Okay, on multiple real estates. There was the .com bubble. There is something to be said for a bird in the hand. And mistakes that we have seen over the decades is holding on too long. You want to sell when you're on an upward trajectory, not when you need to sell. And this goes for intellectual property rights. It can go for like your health. I'm working on it. I'm working with a business owner right now who's told he's terminal. There's no further treatments for the cancer that he has. And he was advised, 2 years ago, sell now. You don't want to be wheeled into the closing, right? So holding on too long is a major problem for all businesses, and it could easily be the same for Amazon-based businesses. You don't want to hold on too long.
Great advice. beware holding on for too long. All right, excellent. So, all right, any other questions, guys? Feel free to drop them in the chat. We only have a couple minutes left before we close. Other than that, I'm curious in terms of like, I'm always about the 80-20 rule, guys. So if you would give your top recommendation, what would that be to really help sellers prepare their business for an exit and to increase their valuation, guys? So Kevin, what's your 80-20 recommendation?
Yeah, my 80-20 recommendation would be just the 80-20 rule. Basically, really focus on a core number of products, 1 to 10 products, really build out that vision there, and don't get, super caught up with, launching 10s and 20s of products a year. Really focus on your money makers, and focus on, the 20% of the business that's generating 80% of the revenue there.
Great advice. CJ, what's your 80-20 recommendation?
Mine's a bit different. I gotta tell you, you should be spending 80% of your time working on the business, on the growth strategies, developing your IP, plugging the holes. Like you have a problem with sourcing or potential problem sourcing, that's where you should spend the smart time. 80% working on the business, 20% or less actually in the business. So that's how I see the 80-20 rule when it comes to selling and maximizing the value. Put your time and work on the business, not necessarily in the business.
Yes, I believe that was Michael Gerber, right? The E-Myth. You want to work on your business, not in your business, right? So that's why you're building out all of these systems, these documentations, outsourcing your supply chain to experts. So you're focused on the growth, and so you're building your business. All right, great stuff, guys. So for people that want to connect with you, Kevin, what is the best way to connect? Is it the same URL that we shared earlier to book a consultation with Thoracio?
Yeah, that works. Also, feel free to reach out directly via email. It's kevin.flaherty@thras.io. Always happy to answer any questions where I can be helpful, and either scheduling through that URL or reaching out directly through email. Always happy to connect.
Awesome. So that's kevin.flaherty@thras.io. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, excellent. And CJ, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to actually connect with me is by a telephone. Okay. I really prefer to talk to people. I take a lot of time growing our brand, advising people, and literally on the phone. The toll free is 877-9-SELLER. The number is 212-256-1109. And my email.
Can you say that again more slowly so we can drive it in the chat? 877. Yeah. 877.
There you go. 877-9-SELLER. That's a little cheesy and tacky, but it's easy to see.
Yeah. Okay.
And our local number is a New York number, 212-256-1109. You could also, of course, email me, cj@amazonsellerslawyer.com. I love talking the big picture, designing ways to grow it. And verbally, to me, is like that. You connect person to person, business to business. So that's what I prefer. You can email me or call.
Awesome. All right. So give CJ a call, 877-9-SELLER. Him and his team. Can you tell us a little bit more about your law firm? I mean, we didn't really highlight that, CJ. How do you help sellers, for those that aren't familiar with you?
We've grown and matured with sellers. Okay. We started out, I wrote the contract for a close friend of mine to buy an Amazon-based business. He bought it. He got suspended, calls me up. He's like, there are 2 people doing these things called plans of action. I think you'd love it. Look at it. And we started doing the best plans of action available. And then all of a sudden there was a lot of IP issues. So then we grew into intellectual property and defending sellers from intellectual property complaints. And then that grew into developing private label brands and brand. Drop the private label, you are a brand. So we have a whole brand development department. And then Amazon steals your money in inventory sometimes. So we take Amazon to arbitration, we get it for you. as private label brands developed into more significant brands, then you have your own hijackers, right? So we have a whole brand protection Amazon website and department. So the entire law firm, we're now like, I don't know, 34 people strong. That's a lot, for a law firm. All we do is help people and companies doing business on Amazon. Brands, sellers, startups, $250 million guys, selling your business, planning your retirement. And so that's what we try and do. If it's a need you have because you're doing business on Amazon, we are the world's best team of people to help you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So definitely consider connecting with CJ if you need some help with that. Suspensions, protecting your brand, and also getting some help as you go through the process. So as we close out, I would just like to thank everybody for coming on. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, CJ, for taking time out of your schedules. Kelly also says, thanks, guys. And Kelly, thanks for your comment. And huge thanks to Gary for the whole week. Mind-blowing stuff that I need to go back over and rewatch to get the most out of it. Huge thanks, Gary. You're the best. Thank you, Kelly. I'm glad that this is helping. In terms of going back to this week, we do have the All Access Pass. If you like to unlock all of the sessions, there's an upgrade that you can make where you can unlock all the sessions, all the videos, and you'll get lifetime access to that. So definitely consider that. I will put that in the chat for you guys to check out. And in the meantime, I just like to take a quick moment to thank everybody for coming on. Today is the last day of the summit. It's been an awesome time for everybody, and for me this week. Some of the top takeaways as we're navigating through the perfect storm. I feel like number one, you really have to be agile, guys. You really have to pivot quickly. We're seeing sellers like revamp their entire business, from the supply chain, from the shipping, from the 3PLs, just within the last 7 months. So definitely you guys have to be quick when it comes to being successful. Number two, one of my top takeaways is you really have to know your numbers, especially right now. The shipping cost, it's like over $20,000 a container, guys. Run the numbers, make sure it's worthwhile to continue selling that product, or maybe, put it on hold for a while until the shipping rates come down, possibly next year after Chinese New Year. Number three, I feel that exits are hot right now. I mean, you've heard Kevin, they're considering up to a 6x multiple. I mean, a couple years ago, this was from 2x to 6x. That's 3 times. It's mind blowing. I mean, if you haven't already, definitely start considering this, right? It could be a life-changing moment for you and your business. And no, even if you sell, it's not the end of the game, right? We're seeing people like Josh, like Ben, they're building brand 2.0 after their exit, right? So, it's not the end of the world. You're not out. Meanwhile, I'd like to thank all of our sponsors. Thank you again, Thoracio. Kevin, you and your team has been awesome for all of your support and all of the value that you're adding to the community as well. So I'm just super grateful for that, Kevin. Also, thank you to Gatita, Yoni, and his team adding profitability. If you guys want to get reimbursements, they're offering $400 back through the special offer from 7-Figure Seller Summit. And Zonguru is an amazing tool for Amazon sellers. They offer some things that other tools do not. Brand analytics, also new marketplaces like Australia and India. Highly recommend you guys check that out. And also VAA Philippines, Gilad and his team can definitely find you a rock star Amazon VA. So definitely check them out. They're offering a special offer, and you can get 5 free hours of Amazon VA work after you sign up. All right. Second, I'd like to thank all the speakers, Kevin and CJ today, and everybody else. We had over 30 speakers. I don't have the whole list in front of me. I wish I could thank all of you personally, but I just want to thank all of you guys together. Without you, we can never have done this. We had over 3,000 people that signed up to the event. So I'm super grateful for the time you took out of your schedules and running your business. Also, I'd like to thank our team for all of your hard work and support. It was a team effort to come out on top. So thank you, Milan, for all of the awesome stuff you did on the development side, building out the website. Thank you, Rowena, with dealing with like the probably the thousands of emails that would have like killed me. I appreciate all your hard work, Rowena. Thank you, Russell, for making all of the images, like the beautiful social shares for our speakers that we can share with. Thank you, Fung, for all the video editing to make everything look super professional. And thank you, Shira, for all the email marketing support. And then also I'd like to thank my family, my wife, Deborah, for holding up the fort with all the I probably spent like 300 hours on this event. So super thankful to my wife and also my son, Harrison, for putting up with me, like being on a crazy schedule. And finally, last but not least, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. I did this to help as many sellers as I can, especially this year. It's been really tough. Hopefully from all of these seven-figure sellers, e-com experts, you're able to, at least have a couple of takeaways that you can implement into your business. Please let me know, is this helping? I really love feedback. It helps me improve. It helps us improve. And, I'm really doing this to help you guys in the community, the sellers. All right. So that's it, guys. Today's the last day. I can't believe the whole week flew by. But actually, it's not over yet. We'll have a surprise, something on Saturday. So pay attention to your email inbox. We'll have something coming up. All right. So awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And Kenneth says, thanks to you all, great pointers. That's it. So thank you, Kevin, for coming on today. Thank you, CJ, for being part of our live Q&A exits to wrap up. Yeah, it's been awesome, guys. Anything else you guys like to share before we sign out?
Guys, thank you very much for having me. I learned a tremendous amount from each of the speakers. It was just a great event. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
You're welcome.
Likewise, I would echo CJ's message, and thank you very much. And that's all I got.
Awesome. All right. It's been a pleasure, guys. So we're going to sign off now. Have a great Q4, everybody. Remember, you got to pivot quick to navigate through this perfect storm so we can come out on top. All right. So with that, have a great day, guys, and we will see you soon. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.